Hello, this is Robert Cappuccio. Thank you for joining me for another PTA Global video blog. At the turn of the century, researchers Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler graphed 2,200 people in order to identify what influence, if any, our social networks have on the obesity epidemic. What they found was that if an individual has just one friend who's obese, that increases their chances of obesity by 45%. Now, if an individual has a friend who is obese, their chances of obesity go up 25%, and what's perhaps most astonishing is that if you take that even 1 degree of separation further, an individual with a friend of a friend of a friend, someone who they probably don't even know, who's obese, their chances of becoming obese still increase by about 10%. This is very similar to the findings of Dr. David McCullen when, after 20 years of research at Harvard University, he concluded that our lives are dramatically influenced and shaped by our affiliation that we have with people closest to us. He coined this the affiliation theory. Now, Christakis reasoned that there are 3 possible causes for this. Number 1 is induction, which means your obesity is directly causative of my obesity. Number 2 is homophily, which means we gravitate towards each other because of a link. We share something in common. And number 3 is confounding. We share a common environmental exposure. Now, Christakis and Fowler found evidence to support all 3 possible causes. But what's really important to note is if behaviors within a reference group are pervasive enough, well then the behaviors leading to obesity becomes an unconscious standard for what's acceptable. It becomes part of our subconscious social mental programming. A social meme, if you will. That's M-E-M-E. Now, it stands to reason that if relationships, or the affiliation theory, is a common cause of obesity, then there has to be an inverse causality, which means that through group X participation and events in our health club that facilitate the development of networks, we can help people to establish the behaviors that serve them, not work against what they want, who they want to become, and where they want to go. See, I think we're very guilty in our industry of treating the symptoms versus the behavioral drives of obesity. If somebody comes in overweight, well, we address their diet, we address their training program. If they come in and complain of joint pain, we take a look at a kinetic chain assessment. Now, while all these things are very important, if we don't determine what exactly the behavioral triggers are, what is the root cause of the problem, we don't have a solution. And because people come to us seeking a solution, if we don't have it, we become part of the problem because we drive what Dr. Martin Seligman called learned helplessness. If they come to the people who have the answers, and we make the problem much more complex, and we don't give them any viable solution, the next choice might be not to do anything at all because they don't believe a solution exists. What if the pain of weight loss is greater than the desire for change? If people's reference groups are so powerful in their influence over people's behaviors, over their social standards of what's acceptable, what happens if an individual comes into our gym and they start losing weight, but they do it in a silo, outside of semi-private training, outside of group exercise programs, outside of anything that we can creatively think of to facilitate a brand new network for this person, and they start to lose the social network that they derive support from? What happens if the more they lose weight, the more they start to feel guilt, loneliness, rejection, and eventually maybe even depression? Without replacement of social networks, we might be actually driving recidivism. Recidivism is when someone stops doing something that's really important for them. It's a relapse within a positive behavior pattern with the intention of change. Now, recidivism is normal to a degree, but we might be exacerbating it by ignoring social networks. As a matter of fact, if we could just get people to show up and have fun, and more importantly, have fun in groups, the kind of stuff that Ian O'Dwyer talks about consistently, we might be creating a social network that allows them to derive support and a sense of belonging, which, if you take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, belonging is more fundamental of a human need, more pervasive, more important to an individual than esteem and the recognition for accomplishments such as weight loss. If we can create that for people, we might solve a huge part of the problem right out of the starting gate for them.